Okay, I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Sacramento First Five Commission for Monday, April 8th, 2024. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll and establish a quorum?
Sure. Chair Serna.
Here.
Commissioner Wesley.
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia. Not hiding anywhere. Okay. Commissioner Gordon is out. Commissioner Casirier.
Here.
Commissioner Katari is out. Commissioner Wirtz.
Here.
Commissioner Kennedy. Commissioner Hassett is out. Commissioner Williams.
Here.
Commissioner Evans is also out. Commissioner Gross.
Here.
Commissioner Calles.
Here.
Commissioner Moak.
Here.
And I see Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia walking up. Thank you. We have quorum.
Very good. If you'd please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then, Madam Clerk, if you'd like to read our statement.
This meeting of the First Five Sacramento Commission is cablecast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast, Consolidated Communications, and AT&T Uverse cable systems. This meeting is closed captioned and live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Saturday, April 13th at 2 p.m. on Channel 14. This meeting can also be viewed at youtube.com/metrocable14.
All right, very good. Thank you. Again, I'd like to welcome everyone to today's First Five Commission meeting and remind everyone that you're certainly welcome to address the Commission on any item on our agenda or not on our agenda. We simply ask that you please complete a speaker slip and turn that into our clerk so that I can call you in the order that we receive them. And with that, our first item is our consent matters, and we have approval of the March 4th, 2024 draft action summary. Is there any member of the Commission that would like to comment or make suggested changes? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone from the public signed up to speak on this matter?
No, Chair, we do not.
All right. With that, we'll do a roll call vote.
Okay. Chair Serna.
Aye.
Commissioner Wesley.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Casirier.
Aye.
Commissioner Calles.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Very good. And I failed to make the motion, so just for the record,
Sorry.
I will retroactively make the motion and look for a retroactive second. There we go. All right. Very good.
So much.
Okay. On to separate matters. Item number 2 is the public's, again, opportunity to address this commission on any item that is not on the agenda. I am not in receipt of any speaker slips, nor do I see anyone approaching the lectern, so we will then move on to item number 3, which is our Executive Director's report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Great to see you all again. And I have a couple of things to highlight from the written report in your packet. First, just some props and a shout out to Commissioner Calles and Chair Serna for unanimously approving the Guaranteed Basic Income Program in Sacramento. This is going to really benefit our first 5 families from those Black Child Legacy Campaign neighborhoods. So it's exciting. We've gotten some really good coverage on it. We were at a prevention cabinet meeting and saying that Commissioner Wirtz is like the new rock star because he keeps picking up more and more traction as the time goes on in different media outlets. So it was, it's been really wonderful, and we've been hearing a lot of positive feedback from community around it. I have some staffing updates. You'll see it's very lonely up here today. Our Chief of Administration has retired. Eric Harold spent 7 years at First Five and more than 30 years in the county, and we're very happy for him. He is enjoying retirement, and we are recruiting for a replacement. We have also brought back Katie Klein as a retired annuitant. She was our ASO2 for, I think, 15 years. And we also have new staff starting on the 22nd, another ASO 1. So we've been very constant for a long time, and now we have a lot of changes in personnel, which kind of happens all at once. But Eric will absolutely be missed. I think he's created every reader-friendly document you have related to our budget, and it's really brought the commission so far along in that way, as well as just the morale and culture he created at the commission. So we will miss him, and hopefully by the next meeting, there will be somebody sitting in the seat next to me. Other updates, I'll give you our Ready update. We are just wrapped up another all-day staff retreat with our consultants, Pure Genius and Touchstone Leadership Consulting. And we thought we were going to get a lot of things done, and we just ended up really focusing on that participatory grant-making process, which is really new for us, and which is how we're going to get our racial equity dollars out the door. So we started a basic blueprint for developing that participatory grant-making process. We are reconstructing our RFP language, and our processes and our procedures around the RFPs. We are streamlining the application and making it more reader-friendly and more equitable. We're considering a recommendation around multi-year funding, maybe more than 3 years at a time of funding for programs that are new and starting up around our equity work. And we're starting to collect demographic data around our funded partners so that we can better tell the story of the number of nonprofits and agencies we're funding who are BIPOC-led or have a percentage of BIPOC ownership or board membership. And so we hope to be able to tell a better story about how we're doing in that area for this new strategic planning period. So lots of good, exciting stuff happening there, as well as Latina Price being on the county's Government Alliance on Racial Equity work group and representing us there. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. We attended the First Five California Summit, Latina and Carmen and I, and it was great. We saw Commissioner Wesley was there. Commissioner, no, okay, I thought I saw you, but it wasn't you. No, okay. It was really wonderful, celebrating 25 years, and they did create a short video that I was hoping to play for you all today, very sort of inspirational 25-year anniversary video. And so maybe we can cue that.
When a child is born, that first breath starts a journey with nearly infinite possibilities. But by the time some children are 5 years old, their possibilities could already be limited. The opportunity gap for at-risk children means that not all kids start kindergarten with the foundation necessary to thrive in school and beyond. That's why First Five has been working tirelessly for a quarter of a century to close that gap. More than 80% of brain growth is completed by age 3, which makes these first years crucial to setting up a child for success. Before their vision even comes into focus, they are part of our vision, that all California's children receive the best possible start in life and continue to thrive. California voters passed Proposition 10, which established the Commission for Children and Families, a landmark decision to invest in our most important resource, our children. In the 25 years since then, First Five has supported children and families through prenatal care, home visitation, health and dental care, family resource centers, school readiness, and early literacy programs. We've spent 2.5 decades implementing groundbreaking public education campaigns to inform families about the biggest issues facing our tiniest residents. We've helped children eat healthy, taught parents how to talk, read, and sing, and informed parents about toxic stress. We've met parents and caregivers where they are, giving them the tools and resources they need to support their children in those first critical years. Across all 58 counties of California, we've been there for kids and their families face to face, where we've entertained, educated, and empowered families.
All right, good job, buddy, yeah!
Over 5 million kits for new parents have made it into the hands of California families, providing vital information to guide them on their parenting journey. We're proud to have made a difference for millions of families. Thanks to paid family leave, Mom can be where she's needed most today. And early access to developmental screenings means nothing's going to stop him from saying what's on his mind. He started talking, reading, and singing to his baby, and the reviews have been stellar. And our toxic stress campaign has empowered Mom with tools that will help this little guy through difficult times. 1 state, 58 counties, 25 years, millions of families, and we're just getting started. The first babies of First Five are starting to have babies of their own, and we are just as committed to helping the next generation. When they succeed, California succeeds.
Thank you, First Five.
Thank you so much, First Five.
Thank you, First Five. Thank you, First Five.
Cheers to 25 years. First Five thanks you.
Very nice.
Yeah, I think they did a really nice job on that. So I'll look at Aaron. We'll be getting one of those of our own, probably. No, I'm just kidding, Aaron. But we are preparing. We're revving up for a local 25-year anniversary celebration later this fall. So that was a great time at the summit, and I'll let you read about the updates for the Children's Trust Fund stuff. I guess I wanted to say that. But the state budget and policy update was really, it's still out there for a $100 million ask, and we now have a champion. Not overly confident, to be honest about it, but would love to see some of that coming in to stabilize us as we saw the impacts from the flavored tobacco ban. It would be one-time funding, and we also have a champion for the bill that would establish a prenatal to 3 work group at the county to help us around the policy side. So 2 bills, First Five sponsored, and that are out there right now, and we'll keep you posted and let you know how that's going. And that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you, Julie. Any comments or questions for Executive Director? Yeah, Commissioner Wirtz.
Yeah, just a shout out, I think, to Eric. I've really enjoyed his ability to go through the budgets in a way that's very useful. I know the Finance Committee does it in more detail, but I've always appreciated that. So just a shout out to his good work, and best wishes for him in the future.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on the Executive Director's report?
No, Chair, we do not.
All right, then we'll go on to the next item.
Item number 4 is the Advisory Committee update, and we need to appoint Sylvia Rodriguez to the Community at Large seat and appoint Carolyn Curtis to the Education and Early Care seat.
All right, why don't we take the report first?
We didn't have a report for this month because we haven't met since the last commission meeting, so
Gotcha.
we'll be meeting Friday, actually.
Okay, very good. Is there anyone signed up to speak on this matter?
No, sir, there's not.
Okay, then I look for a motion for the appointments. Commissioner Wertz.
So moved.
Okay. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Multiple seconds. Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Zerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Wesley.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Casirier.
Aye.
Commissioner Calles.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wertz.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Very good. Next item, please.
Item number 5 is the Evaluation Committee update from March 18th, 2024.
Okay.
Thank you. The Evaluation Committee met on March 18th, and as usual, we had a quorum. The staff went over the status of the increasing referrals to the portal agencies and number of contractors using it. And the committee spent its time basically we had reviewed the report we're going to hear today, so we didn't really do anything further on that at this meeting. But the focus of the meeting was really on reviewing the initial review of our overall evaluation procedures. So we haven't done that for several years, so the staff had brought forth the ideas around that, and we had some discussion, and that process will continue to look at the overall evaluation procedures and plan. In addition, the committee started its review of the results-based accountability evaluation plans for each of the new funded programs, starting with the WIC program support and the Help Me Grow programs. The 3 broad results-based accountability questions, as you will hear and have heard many a time, is how much, how well, and are we better off? To complete that process, we've scheduled a special extra meeting on April 19th to continue that RBA review process. And so our next meetings will have one on April 19th and then another one on May 20th. And that concludes my report, unless any committee members have anything to add.
All right. Very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to address this?
No, Chair, we do not.
All right. Very good. Then we will move on to the next item.
Item number 6 is the Financial Planning Committee update from March 28th, 2024.
Yes, I think that's me. Yes?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So we met on March 28th. We did, I would say, we had 5 major milestones of that meeting, I would say. Number 1, we mourned Eric's departure.
Correct.
Number 2, that made it sound like he died. He did not die. He's just retiring. The opposite of dying, really, is there really?
He's not dead to us at all.
We then went ahead and approved the fiscal year and processed the fiscal year 24-25 recommended budget and 10-year financial plan, which I know will come up here later, so I won't spoil that. So that was number 2. Number 3, we went back then and mourned Eric's departure again. So that was the third thing we did. You'll see later some of the appropriations that are going to come out in the recommended budget that we were able to really get firm on and discuss. Fund balance discussion, reserve release discussion, talked about some other ways with Eric being out, some of the things that we could do in the interim to help support the team. Obviously, he was a huge part, and he just made everybody's job really easy, including he would send bullet points for these types of presentations, which he did not do. So I had to do that, which is why it sounds like it does. But it was interesting. We reflected a bit on and celebrated a little bit, because I think there was a time years and years ago when we recognized that these years that we're in right now, one back and then a couple forward, the cliff looked a lot different than what it actually does now. It's now not really, I mean, I guess you could still call it some form of cliff, but we're going to have an end-of-year reserve balance of $13.5 million still. So that was effectively, at one point in time during our discussion years ago, it would have been gone. So kudos to staff, to Eric, to this group, to leveraging, to all the partners who grow money every day and leverage every opportunity that comes our way, and to the county for great leadership on this. So we talked about a little of that and did some celebrating. And then the last thing we did is we mourned Eric's departure one more time. And that was all. Those were the 5 things we did. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner Moak. All right. Madam Clerk, do we have anyone sign up to address this?
No, Chair, we do not.
All right. Very good. Next item, please.
Item number 7, Systems Optimization and Sustainability Committee update.
I can give that one. We haven't met since the last commission meeting, and we are getting together next Tuesday on April 16th.
All right. Very good. I will assume there's no one signed up to speak on this.
There is not.
Okay. Then item 8, please.
Item 8 is a public hearing to approve the recommended budget and 10-year financial plan for fiscal year 24-25.
Great. Well, as you can see, I'll be flying solo on this for my first time. Oh, look, somebody's going to come and join me, so I'm not alone. Thank you, Alex. Yes, so thank you in advance for your grace that I know I'm probably going to need. Okay, I will just jump in. So Sacramento County Code requires that the first 5 commission budget is submitted to our county executive's office prior to coming to you all for approval. And Eric did submit the recommended budget on February 26th. We didn't have any comments from the county exec's office, so we are ready to go and jump straight into it. Attachment number 1 on page 27 of your packet is the budget highlights document. And I'll direct your attention there. We're requesting an operating budget of $22.15 million, broken down into our 3 areas of administration, evaluation, and program. And that breakdown is $1.6 million for admin, roughly 6% of the budget. Evaluation costs at $530,000, or 2% of our budget, and then our largest category always is program expenditures, and those are at 92% of the budget, or $20.26 million. Also on that budget highlights document, you'll see the section titled Appropriations by Priority Area. So Eric did update all of those to the newest priority areas for the 2027 strategic plan. So we have health and well-being, parent partnerships, child care quality supports, racial equity, and systems improvement. All combined, those allocations are about $15 million from our Prop 10 funding. And then he added a new section to this because we thought it would be important to show you those leveraged appropriations too. So this is the funding that has been brought in and includes CalWorks home visiting, CalWorks home visiting. It includes Building Strong Families and Safe Sleep Baby 3.0, which are both funded through ARPA dollars, and also includes parent leadership training from our health plan partners. Leveraged funding for the fiscal year 24-25 totals $7.13 million, which when added to the $15.1 million, brings us our total appropriations for next year to $22.15 million. So if you look toward the bottom right-hand side of the budget highlights, you'll see the call-out box that really sort of highlights our reserves. At the beginning of the fiscal year, we'll start off with $16.2 million, and we'll have an estimated carry-forward balance of $1 million, which will mean that we're going to have to pull $2.6 million from our reserves as planned, leaving a reserve balance at the end of the fiscal year of $13.6 million. If you look right to the left of that call-out box, you'll see a summary of our revenue and how much we anticipate to collect next year. Prop 10 revenue and all other sources of income are expected to be about $18.5 million. And then when we combine that with the reserve release of $3.6 million, we have total financing of $22.15 million, which brings us to a balanced budget. Hallelujah. So that is the budget highlights form. And then if you flip to the next page, 28, you'll see attachment number 2. And that is the 10-year financial plan. Before I get into that, I wanted to share just a little bit of information that's in your commission letter, and just as context. So the total recommended budget is about $415,000 less than our budget. That's our current year budget, our current budget. And that's due to a combination of a little decreased expenditures, a little increased revenue, but sort of when you balance all of those things out, we're asking for about $415,000 less than was in last year. And we anticipate a 12% decrease in the reserve release from the prior year as well. That's because of that carry forward balance. So less money came out of our reserve, and we're just slightly under what we spent last year. Okay. Now I'll have you look at the 10-year plan. It reflects the funding level set by the 2024 implementation plan. So the green highlighted column is what we're looking at today. It includes the latest Prop 10 revenues provided by the California Department of Finance. And those revenues were revised just recently to a bit higher than what we normally would have in there because of the CSET money, which is California excise tax dollars on vape products, as well as we're showing an increased birth rate, which Commissioner Casirier probably knows about, but increased birth rate in Sacramento, California. And so that's how our funding is allocated by birth rate. So we saw our anticipated Prop 10 revenues increasing slightly.
I'm just wondering, is that a artifact of the pandemic?
Maybe folks moving from the Bay Area to
All right.
Sacramento. I'm guessing, but I don't really know.
Yeah, multiple factors. That is part of it, but also Sacramento is popular destination for immigrants moving in, and so we've had quite a number moving in as well.
That's true.
Young families.
Yep, thank you. So as I mentioned, the green highlighted budget is the current year, which matches all the information from your budget highlight form. And then you'll see that the plan conservatively does not include any of the leveraged funds moving beyond the green highlighted. Well, we definitely think that we will be leveraging dollars in the next years, but Eric would never let us put them down, as you can't count your chickens before they're hatched. So this doesn't show any of that, although we do anticipate leveraging funds. After the 2024 plan, you'll see the column that has the 3 years right now of the 2027 strategic plan, and you'll see that right now we're estimating a 28.4% reduction in that. And that, again, is without any leverage dollars, and it's also without any carry forward, which we typically always have carry forward from the prior year due to contractors not spending down all of their funds. So it looks a little grim, but I don't think it will really be that bad moving forward. And that's the good news. I believe that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
Good job. Any questions for Julie? Okay, Madam Clerk, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this?
No, Chair, I do not.
All right, we do need to approve this, correct?
Correct, and it's also a public hearing, so I don't know if
Yeah.
we need...
Okay, so I will open the public hearing. As was just noted, there's no one that is interested in addressing this. I'll officially close the public hearing and look for a motion. Chair will move.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Wesley.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Casirier.
Aye.
Commissioner Calles.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Thank you all. Motion passes.
All right, very good. Next item, please.
Okay, item number 9. Authorize the executive director to negotiate and execute contracts for programs in the 2024 strategic plan priority areas of health and well-being, child care quality, and systems improvement in the amount up to $2,402,996.
All right, very good.
We have one recusal for this item. Thank you, Commissioner Calles. We will call you back.
Do you do the badge?
We won't forget you. Dina.
Okay, fabulous. I will kick us off, but I do have Alejandro Labrado and Linda Fong-Samara up here in case there are questions specific to the contracts that are being recommended. So staff are recommending authority to contract with several programs and services, or several contractors for programs and services to be implemented in our 2024 strategic plan. The three priority areas actually that we're focusing on today are health and well-being, parent partnership, and systems improvement. And I would like to note that these represent our third batch of investments. We've just been sort of taking a batch at every commission meeting. We'll have a fourth batch of investments in June, and then our racial equity funding will go out about 6 months later after that. The 2024 to 27 strategic plan was approved on April 3rd, as you recall, and it really marked a new chapter in the commission and reflected our commitment to racial equity. This plan includes separate funding for racial equity and for parent partnerships and for systems improvement. And it totals about $44.6 million over the 3-year period. Commission staff added detail in the implementation plan, which then led us to the procurement process for all of the different contracts and services that are going into place. So as part of that procurement process, we released a request for proposals in December of 2023 and held a bidders conference. And then we had a proposal deadline were set for February of 2024. We had a total of 3 competitive RFPs this round, 1 for parent leadership, 1 for parent coordinator services, and 1 for health systems liaison. The review process for proposals received in response to the RFPs included 3 phases, which are outlined in your commission letter, so I won't take the time to go through those. A total of 5 proposals were received in response to the RFPs, and staff are recommending funding of 3 agencies coming from those 3 RFPs. Sacramento Children's Home for parent partnership contract in an amount not to exceed $381,897. We're recommending funding for Lead for Tomorrow for the parent coordinator services in an amount not to exceed $540,000, and a contract with Health Management Associates to provide our health systems liaison services to the Commission in an amount not to exceed $250,000. No letters of protest were received for any of our competitive RFP processes. In addition to those processes, we are also recommending 3 contracts be procured through other processes. One is an MOU with the Sacramento County Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services, and that is for continuation of the Steering Committee on the Reduction of African American Children. So this ultimately makes its way from Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services to Sierra Health Foundation. The steering committee has some big work coming up this next year, in particular to redefine those Blue Ribbon Commission goals through the year 2030, and as well as updating their strategic and implementation plans. So we have membership. Linda Fong-Samara has been a member of that steering committee since its inception and will continue to represent us there. We have a contract, general services contract with Persimmon International. They are our data management system, and this would continue their services with us for a 3-year term, funding not to exceed $211,600. And finally, Applied Survey Research is recommended to continue on as our evaluation consultant to work through our RBAs And they also provide us, as you know, a very in-depth report on our reduction of African American child deaths, as well as a birth and beyond evaluation and our general overall annual evaluation, I guess, as well as the updates to First Five California for their annual report. So lots going on in that contract, and that is for an amount not to exceed $719,499. A synopsis of all of the competitive processes are in your commission packet, so you can see sort of details on the numbers to be served. And then additionally, you can see in attachment 1 all of the awards and dollar amounts being recommended. These amounts are included in the approved spending plan and would be incorporated into budgets for for fiscal years 24-25 through 26-27. And staff is recommending contracting as described in attachment 1 to provide important prevention and early intervention services for children 0 to 5 and their families in Sacramento County.
All right, very good. Thank you, Julie.
Yes.
Any questions for our executive director? Okay, don't see any. Anyone signed up to address the commission on this?
No, Chair.
Okay, all right. I will entertain a motion at this point.
I'll move.
Okay, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Cerna.
Aye.
Commissioner Wesley.
Aye.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Aye.
Commissioner Casirier.
Aye.
And Commissioner Wirtz.
Aye.
Thank you all. Motion passes.
Very good. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item number 10 is a presentation on First Five Sacramento fiscal year 22-23 annual evaluation report.
Wonderful. We have Jordan Kati joining us again. She's been a familiar face so far this year. But thank you. It's going to be exciting to hear about all the good stuff happening.
Yes. And I think we need to invite Commissioner Callejas back.
Oh, we do. Thank you. Always forget.
Don't want her to miss anything.
I know. Thank you for that.
Okay, wonderful. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm excited to be back again to talk to you today about First Five Sacramento's annual overall report for fiscal year 22-23. Just as a reminder, this should hopefully look familiar to you. This is the strategic hierarchy that First Five Sacramento has made its programmatic and funding decisions with for the current funding cycle. This will be the last time that you see this, I believe. Yes? So there were 3 main categories: health, early care and learning, and empowered families. And within each of those are specific result areas. So under health, the first result area has to do with improving perinatal conditions and decreasing infant deaths. I will go through very briefly some of the results from the reduction of African American child death campaign work, which I did present to the Commission last month. Result area 2 has to do with increasing the prevalence and duration of breastfeeding, while result area 3 has to do with increasing utilization of medical, dental, and mental health services and is largely involved in systems change. Moving on to early care and learning, result area 4 is about increasing access to affordable early care opportunities, again, largely impacted in the systems change realm, whereas result areas 5 and 6 are a mix of both direct service as well as systems impacts. So result area 5 is about increasing the quality of early childhood settings, while result area 6 is really about preparedness for kindergarten for young children. And then finally, result area 7 of empowered families has to do with increasing effective parenting with the overall goal to decrease child trauma and maltreatment. So I will take you through some specifics of the funded programs and their outcomes for the past fiscal year. But first, I wanted to just give a quick overview. Again, this should look familiar to you, but as you know, we use results-based accountability, or as we affectionately call it, RBA. And that really is intended to measure both the reach of services as well as the impact of services. So we measure a variety of indicators that have to do with how much programs did. So that has to do with program reach, numbers served, how well did they do it, program quality, places that programs could improve. And then the third, and arguably most important, is anyone better off? So what are the real impacts of the program? So our goal today is to highlight both successes from the year, but also to talk about areas for improvement for each specific program. And also just remember that First 5 Sacramento has really centered itself with its commitment to equity. And so in addition to this, we heard about some of the ready work that's going on today, but that really does play out through all of this evaluation as well. So we wanted to make sure that we recognize that. Okay, so overall, in the fiscal year 22-23, nearly 10,000 caregivers were reached through First 5 programming, and just over 6,000 children were reached. This is an increase of that is quite substantial, of 20% since the prior fiscal year. And we really can likely attribute this to things sort of returning to normalcy after the stark impacts of COVID-19. In addition, we also want to measure, and we understand how important it is to have wraparound services that families can engage with that meet multiple of their needs. And so 11% of families engaged in 2 or more service program areas. I do want to specify that this does not count families who may have engaged in multiple services within the same agency. So as an example, Birth and Beyond has a host of different services for families. So a family could participate in crisis intervention and parenting education. That would not count for this. This is if a family participated in Black Mothers United and then also WIC. That would count for here. So as a demographic profile, 31%, so almost a third, spoke a primary language other than English. We also see that First 5 Sacramento programs are serving higher proportions of Hispanic Latino populations and Black African American populations compared to county-wide percentages. They also most programs through First 5 have their participants complete what we call the Family Information Form. And one part of that is to assess sort of their status at intake to these different programs. And so this slide really talks about how participants coming in, what their sort of snapshot looked like. And so just a couple highlights, you can see that most families, 80%, reported playing one-on-one with their child 5 or more times a week. So that's something that is really strong even before First 5 programming came in. One area that is definitely something to work on improving is that less than half reported reading together with their child 5 or more times per week. And as we know, Talk, Read, Sing is so much the focus of First 5, so that is something that can definitely be improved with participation in the programs. So very, very good to have this snapshot of where people are before starting programming. Now, let's look at after engaging in the program. So they fill out a form called the Family Information Form at the beginning, and then there's also a follow-up Family Information Form that is sent out at the end of each fiscal year. So you can see in the blue, those percentages are those who agreed or strongly agreed to the statements on the left at intake. And then the green is the percentage of those who agreed or strongly agreed at follow-up, so after participation. All of these changes that are noted here are statistically significant. A couple that I would like to point out have to do with an increase in involving their child in day-to-day tasks for their family, but then also understanding community knowledge of what programs to contact if they need advice on how to raise their child or if they need help for basic needs. Before I dive into all of the different result areas and programs, I wanted to quickly highlight some outcomes from the Refugee Family Support Program that I'm sure you have heard about in the past. We do have some exciting outcomes for that program. So as a refresher, this was a service that provided navigation of resources in the county for newly entered families into Sacramento who had a child ages 0 to 5. And so there was care to choose staff navigators who had lived experience in this area to make sure that they were able to sort of lend their expertise, but also build rapport with the families as well. There were 447 families that were provided RFS, Refugee Family Support Services. And just as a list of what navigators provided, it was most common that they provided tangible support to families. So things like food, diapers, car seat, crib, etc. But they also worked as a liaison to help with warm handoffs to other services throughout the county for those families. And so they administered 957 navigation services as well. I also want to note that these numbers only are inclusive of the first year of funding. First Five did secure another year of funding as well, so we will report on those results as they become available. In addition, there were follow-up calls that were completed with participants, and I won't go through all of these, but there were some really striking results that participants denoted about their participation. So 91% said that they were helped somewhat or a lot to connect to health or welfare services. These include things like medical care, public benefits, etc. 83% were provided transportation services or rides. And then they were also asked to rate how their experiences have gotten better since participating. We see that 86% said that they are better able to navigate life in the U.S., 84% said they have greater knowledge about what programs to contact when they need help with basic needs. So overall, this program was very, very successful. I'm excited to be able to report on in the future even further benefits that have come from this program. Okay, so back to our regularly scheduled result areas. So priority area 1 is health, and so I will go through all of the funded programs that were within this priority area. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the RAACD results because I just showed you those last month, but just as a reminder, we're seeing decreases in overall Black African American infant mortality countywide, but they have increased since their lowest as the rolling average of 2015 to 2017. So we do need to continue to monitor this to see what the trend is going to be and if they are able to recover after what we have thought might be a COVID-related spike. The Pregnancy Peer Support Program, Black Mothers United, provided support to just under 150 pregnant women. As a reminder, 88% of the babies who were born to these women were at both a healthy weight and gestational age, and there were 0 newborn deaths for the 4th consecutive year. The Infant Safe Sleep Campaign, or Safe Sleep Baby, provided workshops to 832 caregivers where we demonstrated significant improvements in safe sleep knowledge, as well as through their partnership with Cribs for Kids, the distribution of 546 cribs to parents or caregivers who noted that they did not have a safe place to sleep their infant. And finally, the Perinatal Education Campaign implemented a new campaign called Model of Caring. They also had nearly 300 social media posts and 12 podcast episodes, as well as multiple community events as well. I also want to point out, you may notice one of the strategies is missing here. Because we have a whole section talking about birth and beyond, we put the FRCs that are usually in this section over at the end. So I will revisit them at the end of this presentation. We did not forget about them. So next we'll move to, still in our health priority area, we will move to breastfeeding support. So Women's, Infants, and Children, or WIC, reached 2,399 mothers. They provided over 2,000 helpline services where mothers can call in for advice about breastfeeding. They provided over 1,400 drop-in services, which were in person to help mothers who may need breastfeeding assistance. And then also over 1,100 consults with a licensed lactation consultant as well. One really exciting finding, and this is one that is consistent from year to year, that we are seeing very high rates of exclusive breastfeeding among those mothers who were reached at the 6-month follow-up call, exceeding both statewide estimates and the Healthy People 2030 target. We do have plans for the upcoming strategic plan cycle to sort of refine how we are measuring this, because right now we are receiving a lower sample size than what we would like to. So that some changes will be coming, but we're hopeful that we will still see the very stellar results that we've seen in the past with this program. And as always, we want to be able to warm up all of this data. So I have a quote here from a participant. My lactation consultant showed great care for me and my baby and followed up with us regularly. I couldn't be more grateful to her, giving me the support and confidence I needed. In addition, there have been quite a few systems efforts related to the health priority area that took place in the last fiscal year. Most of them have to do with better partnering and collaborating with both local hospitals, local healthcare providers, and even health systems sort of as a greater whole. In addition, there was a public awareness campaign about maternal mental health entitled Be Mom Aware, and then also the Safe Sleep Baby 3.0 expansion, which also helps to incorporate the hospitals as well into the Safe Sleep Baby model. Priority Area 2 has to do with early care and learning, and really trying to measure children's ability to be ready for kindergarten. We know that children's readiness for kindergarten has longitudinal effects on third grade reading and math scores. So the way that they enter kindergarten is supremely important. So the first funded program is PBM, which is a bit of a mouthful, Early Learning Partnerships Building Mindful Early Care and Education, so I will call that PBM from now on. They supported 225 early educators, so they are working with teachers to increase their quality of early childhood education. And that benefited almost 1,500 children who were enrolled in their classrooms. In addition, those teachers completed ASQ, Ages and Stages questionnaire, developmental screenings, as well as the social emotional version. We saw almost 100% of participants who were enrolled in long-term consultation improve their assessment scores. And then 88% of those who had the weekly coaching completed 75% of their goals that they laid out at the beginning of the program. And once again, a great quote. So PBM impacted my program as if lightning had struck it. It provided me with the resources and ideas to improve my program, but also helped me better understand difficult situations and find resolutions. So that was really about helping teachers. This is more about helping children. So kindergarten readiness through the school districts in Sacramento County served over 3,000 caregivers and 3,738 children. Among those, 763 children attended playgroups through the school districts. Almost 2,500 children received those developmental screenings, 8% of whom were referred for additional services based on their assessment results. 150 school staff received social emotional supports training, and 935 caregivers attended parenting education workshops through the school districts. In addition, school districts did a whole host of other activities that are sort of not universal across all 9 school districts. So we have them listed here. Text-based parenting education, so things like Ready Rosie were participated in by some of the districts, family events, early literacy support workshops, having parent advisory groups and regular meetings, as well as holding kindergarten transition orientation to help bridge the gap for children between preschool and kindergarten and help them enter and feel as comfortable as possible. In addition, for children who had not had early childhood education experience before kindergarten, they held transition summer camp programs. And so 316 children attended these programs. They were assessed both at the beginning and at the end of their attendance. We saw significant improvements across the board, but especially in academics. Things like being able to count to 20, being able to count objects, letter recognition, and then self-regulation domains. So being able to pay attention to a task for a reasonable amount of time, being able to show curiosity in an appropriate way, etc. And our quote here from a mother of a camp participant is, "I haven't seen her so happy and excited. I feel like she's better prepared for kindergarten now." In addition, Help Me Grow holds a call center to field parents who either are wanting to receive a developmental screening or have received a developmental screening with some areas of concern. And so they received 671 calls during the fiscal year. They conducted 344 developmental screenings and provided over 400 referrals, really strikingly 92% of which were successfully contacted. So having families become engaged, realize why this is really important for them to reach out to these additional services. So they're doing a really good job of that. Additionally, they conduct home visits for a subset of participants, and so there were 701 home visits conducted during the fiscal year. And a Help Me Grow participant said, "My family advocate," which is what they call their home visitors, "has been so helpful in making sure my kids have the support they need. I would still be fighting with Medi-Cal if it hadn't been for her help." And as with the other priority areas, there has been work in the systems arena as well. So In this section, there have been investments in the Sacramento County Child Care Coalition, which is really aiming to increase access and quality to child care for children throughout Sacramento County, and then also engagement in a variety of task forces, committees, and councils. You can see them listed here, but making sure that First 5 Sacramento is represented and has a seat at the table when these types of groups gather and important decisions may be made. Our final area is empowered families, and there are 2 grantees in this area. The first is Birth and Beyond, and the second is Crisis Nursery. So first we will first we'll show you the fact that this priority area is really aiming to decrease child maltreatment. And so this is the countywide rates of child maltreatment separated by race. You can see that there is still quite a disparity between Black African American children's experiences of child abuse and all other races. However, the positive is that we're seeing a very beautiful decrease line down. So the efforts that are being made by First 5 and many of the other partners in the county are not going unnoticed, and the disparity is decreasing, albeit it still does exist. Now I'll talk about Birth and Beyond. So Birth and Beyond reached over 3,600 families with children ages 0 to 5 in the fiscal year. They provide 4 major categories of strategies that range from very intensive to very light touch. So the home visiting program is considered to be the most intensive program with weekly home visits. There were more than 9,300 home visits provided in the fiscal year. They also conduct group parenting education workshops, which are regular workshops that parents can attend, and we measure their pre and post information for how they've changed parenting knowledge and skills. Then there's crisis intervention for families who are experiencing emergent needs, and those are assessed to either families being considered level 1 or only needing referrals to families who need more case management support who are considered level 2. And then finally, SELS, which stands for Social Emotional Learning and Supports, are the light touch activities, things like support groups, fitness classes, get-togethers for families that really provide a gateway to other Birth and Beyond services. So first, I'll talk about home visits. So there were 829 families that received home visits from a variety of different models. So their primary model is the Parents as Teacher model, which they implemented a couple of years ago, but they also implement Healthy Families America and the Effective Black Parenting Program as well. Now you may be familiar with the fact that we also measure CPS outcomes for home visiting participants. So we look at, among those who received the recommended minimum amount of dosage of home visiting, how many of them from 1 year after intake into the home visiting program, how many of them have a CPS substantiation. So among the group that had 8 or more hours, there were 3.1% of those children did have a substantiation. We saw that is higher than the countywide percentage. We do know, though, that Birth and Beyond does have a higher needs population who engage in home visiting, so they receive many referrals from CPS directly, and about 35% of all of home visiting participants had prior CPS involvement in the past 5 years in this group. The really exciting news is for the second year in a row, among the group who entered home visiting with a recent substantiation, so within the past 6 months, this could have been a referral from CPS, but it also could have been a family who received a referral somewhere else. But we know that those families who have had substantiated CPS involvement recently may be at higher risk for having another substantiation with CPS. And among those who received 8 or more hours, 0% of them had another substantiation within 1 year after starting the home visiting program. Now, the sample size is small, but I'm really excited because this is the second year in a row that we've had this finding. So really starts to begin a trend, and hopefully we can continue that with further measurement as well. For group parenting education workshops, there were statistically significant improvements across the board in parenting knowledge and skills, especially for their Make Parenting a Pleasure program. And the Effective Black Parenting program is still being implemented. There was a process to get that approved by DCFAS for use in mandated parenting classes. And so there's still the ongoing implementation of that. So our sample is low for those classes for this past fiscal year. For crisis intervention, we measure self-sufficiency using the Family Development Matrix. As a friendly heads up, after this fiscal year, the owner and creator of the FDM decided to retire and pull use of the tool from anyone who was using it. So this will be the last year that you hear about the FDM reported because we were not allowed to continue use. We did work with the crisis intervention specialists to create a tool that was similar, although not exact, so that there were no plagiarism concerns, but also they had some extremely valuable input about how they would wish the tool would be changed so that it could better measure what experiences their participants tend to have. So that is still an ongoing partnership that we meet with the crisis intervention specialists to continue this adapted tool. And then for the CELS activities, again, those are the more light touch, we actually see relatively high amounts of dosage for those who participated in these events. So on average, there was 11.1 hours spent at these events throughout the year. And about 1/3 of participants actually came back to 5 or more activities during the fiscal year. So what's a better way to measure if the programs are effective and enjoyable for participants is if people come back. And so they're really seeing positive results there. And for our quote here, from a home visiting participant, they said, "The activities are helping my youngest have healthy transitions. I wish I had this knowledge before so I could also do these activities with my older children as well." And then finally, last but not least, this is the final funded program that provides direct services. The Sacramento Crisis Nursery provides care for children whose parents need emergent child care for short amounts of time. So Sacramento Crisis Nursery served just about 350 children throughout the fiscal year. Just under 2/3 of them had 3 or more distinct stays throughout the fiscal year. And they provide both 24-hour overnight stays if needed, or just daytime care if needed. And so 214 children received the around-the-clock care, while 343 received just daytime care. The most common reasons for use were employment, parental distress, or medical reasons. There was a significant reduction in stress levels among participants after use of the crisis nursery, as well as nearly 100%, 99.6, agreed that crisis nursery kept their children safe and secure, while 98.8% felt that they were better able to solve crisis situations after the use of crisis nursery. We also measure CPS outcomes for crisis nursery participants because the overall goal of crisis nursery is to provide a safe place for children whose parents may not have a safe place for them otherwise. So hopefully to prevent abuse and neglect for those children. Of the 280 children ages 0 to 5, 30% had any CPS involvement in the past 5 years, while 6% had a substantiation in the past 6 months before they came into the crisis nursery. Afterwards, 3% had a substantiated CPS involvement up to 12 months after intake. And we have 2 quotes here from crisis nursery participants. The first is, "Being homeless isn't easy, far from. So thank you all for everything. We love you and you will never understand how greatly you've made a difference in our lives." And then the other is, "I sometimes feel like I literally have no one to help. You guys give me that much needed time and assistance that keeps me going." And then we turn to goals for the future for First Five. So we are, as you heard, working diligently on updating and refining evaluation plans for the 24 to 27 funding cycle. And we are definitely wanting to incorporate current findings from this fiscal year, as well as the other 2 within this funding cycle, to provide evidence for changes or improvements in the RBAs that we create for the next funding cycle. In addition, there are plans to continue to invest in systems change. This is even more strongly shown through the strategic plan for this upcoming cycle, so that will be really exciting. We plan to continue to do special studies where we're able to do deeper dives on specific programs to better understand in a larger sense rather than just the sort of overview that we're able to provide for the annual report. We also work with Persimmon to help to refine the database to make sure that data entry is as seamless and accurate as possible. And then also making sure that we're able to increase collaborative opportunities wherever possible and make sure that this evaluation data is able to be accessed and understood widely. So thank you all so much. I'm more than happy to address any questions about anything that I may have covered today.
Great. Thank you, Jordan. Always very thorough and informative. I did have a question about some of the latter part of the presentation. Sure. In terms of, I forget which slide it was, but you'd made a brief remark about comparing the numbers compared to last year. So how much of this data do we have for multiple years so we can have a kind of a look back and understand temporally what's changed or not?
Great question. So that is one of our main reasons that we establish RBAs that then are held steady for the 3-year cycle. So we do have the RBAs for almost all of them. Some may have changed slightly, but for all programs. And next year, which will be 23-24, we will compile a 3-year report that will look at trends from programs across the funding cycle years.
Great, thank you. All right, any other, Commissioner Wirtz.
Well, Jordan, I just have to thank you. That was a massive amount of information that you have presented, and I think the report reflects it even more in detail. And I really do have to say that I think ASR and you and your team have improved over the years from good to great. So I don't mean that there was need for improvement. But anyway,
Thank you so much.
Very well done. You a great partner with our evaluation committee and are very responsive when we ask for the questions and so on. So just in general, I just wanted to indicate that there are so many pieces in here that First Five is covering, and so many pieces that are reflected here as activities that are well run and having good impact. So, I mean, I just, the Her Health First with 0 newborn deaths for 4 years running, just continue. I can't help but say we need to expand that program. The perinatal, overall seeing perinatal and the conditions going down in the county over the last several years is really a positive kind of thing. And I just want to highlight countywide the CPS substantiation rates showing this decreasing disparities and decreasing rates for the African American population. I know that's both systemic changes as well as reality changes of our families doing better. But so I think kudos to the county and Michelle for the leadership with your team and so on the changes happening there to address this sort of long-term systemic institutional bias toward African American families. So I think that really has to be highlighted. The breastfeeding rates in Sacramento County are outstanding. Having been involved in that for many years, I'm just really impressed with the initiation rates at the hospitals, and that's a kudos to the partnerships, I think, with the hospitals, as well as the leadership from our providers, and so I just think that is critical. Some of the school readiness, I was particularly struck by the transition summer camp improvement of readiness, that these little summer camps, I mean, I took them to be a fun thing that, good for people to have or something, but it shows that the readiness went from like 28% to 36%, which was a substantial increase in kids being ready and a much more reduced level of non-readiness. And I'm just pleased to see that we're funding the health, I forget their name, health management associates, or to keep working on our partnerships with the hospitals, because with both safe sleep as well as the breastfeeding supports, as well as looking at perinatal issues. Our health system partners as well as the health plans are really critical to continue this growth here. And again, with the outcomes for our birth and beyond home visiting programs and so on, we still see this strong systematic improvement and success with our families that we can recruit and keep engaged. And so that's a great consistent finding we have. However, I'm particularly focused in the evaluation committee, talking with others around how to work on our engagement with these families. If you saw the numbers, for example, on the substantiated families, we had 50 that we have data for that had a substantiation and that we followed for a year, and only 40 of them, only 10 had 8 hours or more. 40 of those 50, 80% of them were not able to be engaged for 2 hours or something. That's not an issue simply of birth and beyond by any means. It's really, I think it's an issue about refocusing on who is best to be served by birth and beyond programs. So I think we're working on that issue around what's the criteria for who gets referred there and who needs more intensive services that only CPS and in partnership can provide. So that's an area of growth for us, I think, as well. But overall, this report has a ton of stuff in it. I know no one can take it all in today, but I think we should all look at it. There's room for improvements in various places, but I think the real kudos goes out to our providers in the community that are working so hard to provide whatever support they think they can give to their families and children. So I think kudos to all of those programs that work so hard and can some of this reporting gets to touch what that work indicates. And I think the stories are also another part of that highlight that individual people and individual families and individual children are truly supported and helped by these programs. So just again, one, thank you, Jordan, for the ongoing work. It's a lot of work. I know you work with Carmen and the First Five team staff for all of this. So kudos to the work and kudos to the results.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Commissioner
you.
Wirtz.
Commissioner Wesley.
I just have 3 areas. I ditto everything that was said, but I do have curiosity around a few things. I want to start with the TK or school readiness. I always say TK, but school readiness. And I know that that's priority area too, and we think about school readiness as the child, the family, and the schools being ready. Do we interpret that educators are part of the system of schools being ready, or is there something that school systems are doing, not just at the teacher level, but at the leadership level in terms of principals and superintendents? I was just curious about that.
That's a great question. So I do think I would interpret teachers as part of that school system. And I love the way that you said that, because that's really how we also measure readiness: the children, the families, the schools, and then even the community. I wish Lindsay was here to talk further about the specific participation in the collaboratives that is being done, because I do think that plays a role in what your question is. But to my knowledge, I don't know that there's specific engagement with principals or things like that. I think it's even larger, like planning councils, superintendents, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I asked that, Jordan, because I come out of the school district world in the Bay Area, even though I live here in Sacramento, I was commuting back and forth. And a lot of times we see that teachers are engaged in some of these trainings and, but it's not getting to those outside the classroom. So then when so I'll just tell you, there's something called central office. If things don't get to the central office, sometimes things don't move. And if it doesn't make it from central office, even all the way up to the superintendent, it's sort of just at the teacher level. And so you're only as good as the teachers getting that training or those supports, but it doesn't move. And then we know the classroom has a great impact, but you need everything to sort of like move together simultaneously.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great point.
Okay. And then my other one was around my second of 3 was thinking about around the child welfare CPS and curiosity. I know we're moving as a state from being mandated reporting to mandated supporting. Are we looking at teasing out the difference between neglect and abuse?
So we do gather that information. We have not reported it here. I do have it, specifically even what type of abuse, physical, sexual, et cetera. And then the other piece to this is every 3 years, the Birth and Beyond program has an AmeriCorps-funded special analysis, the quasi-experimental design, where we're able to really tease out factors like that, where it's a much more sophisticated analysis that is able to look at specifics regarding many factors, but the type of abuse or neglect is certainly included there.
Because I know at the state level, we're trying to tease out abuse as separate from neglect, and the neglect piece is around what one of the beautiful commentaries from one of the parents around just having those supports. So if I don't have shelter, if I don't have food, that's much different than direct abuse than neglect. So it'd be interesting, I don't know, if we play with that a little bit, because it goes back to that integrated system that we're thinking about. I was, of like, we help with housing, we help with food, we help with these other areas of neglect that is, again, different from abuse.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. We have the data for it, so I think we definitely could explore that further.
Okay, and then my actually last question was around Black effective parenting, and you said there's a little hold up somewhere in the system. Where are you able to say where in the county system it's held up and what the barriers are?
So this was just for this past fiscal year. So I do believe it has been since approved.
Okay.
Is that right? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So it has been since approved since the fiscal year 22-23
Yes.
to be used as the court mandated programs, parenting programs. And so it is now able to be used. So we expect to have higher levels of sample sizes in the future years.
Okay. And then my last one is just to reiterate everything from my other three questions. It's like, if we continue to have, I don't know if Persimmon captures that, but this integrated systems of support on one of the slides that you capture, I know that if we could keep working that way as a model, and I'm sure we are, and I'm new to this, and you're new as a commissioner, but just continue to work that way, because we're starting to even, and I keep bringing in state because we're trying to figure this out too. State level and local, we could do it much easier at times, but just trying to figure out how do we have these integrated systems of support so that if we capture one area, another area, you don't have atrophy in a sense.
Certainly, yes. And I think that's so important. And I think we can further refine the way that we look at that as well. As I mentioned on one of the very first slides about how 11% engaged in different strategies, but if they engaged in multiple strategies within a strategy, multiple programs within a strategy, they weren't included in that calculation. And so I do think further analysis there would be warranted, and really to continue to encourage cross-pollination of First Five funded programs. Thank you so much for your comments.
Chair Cerna, can I add two quick things?
Sure.
In response to Commissioner Wesley's questions? So, yes, one of the things that the school districts did back when we did certified sustainable, they had to come up with sustainability plans. And I think almost all of them had written into their plans that that the teachers and the ECE staff would make a concerted effort to go to school board meetings and talk about the needs of ECE, what First Five was supporting, what they weren't supporting, how the funding was going to impact those supports, and basically requesting funding and prioritization of ECE at the school level with trustees, superintendents. So that has all been happening, and while they were in some ways probably the most challenging ones to get to create those sustainability plans of our contractors, they actually saw so many benefits of doing that, and really didn't have to cut services to kids nearly as much as they thought. And then secondly, with effective Black parenting, I just wanted to say that when the low numbers are really around us focusing on just the 2 family resource centers that prioritized our RAACD, but now with effective Black parenting approved and as an evidence-based and accepted court mandated, then it's now going to be at all 9 family resource centers, so there will definitely be additional numbers there. Yeah.
Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia.
Thanks. So a question about our outcomes when we're measuring direct services, how many people we're serving. When we're providing parenting, things like parenting, where we're educating or building skills, do we have a way to measure not just the people to whom we deliver those direct services, but the communities that they live in, and how that information is perhaps getting spread to those communities as an interim to seeing the change in a population outcome that you're showing, like, infant mortality or other types of population level outcomes? Perhaps we can look at how our services that we're funding are touching different families than those who are directly getting those services. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's a really interesting point, and I think it's very well timed as we are writing these RBAs for the next funding cycle, because we don't currently ask this, but this is something we could consider adding for a parent to say, what level do you agree with the statement? I will share some of this information with someone that I know, or I have shared. Yeah, it depends on when they receive the post. But I think that could be really interesting. We did used to measure indirect services, indirect numbers or reach for families specifically. So like if a parent received parenting education, how many children do they have, and then counted those numbers. But we don't have a measure right now of community spread in that way.
And it might be a good question to ask our parent leaders, because they would know, they'd be able to give you some ideas about how to capture that type of information, because it is difficult to capture. You can't ask a survey and ask if they will or if they have, but maybe there's some way to understand it that our parent leaders can help us figure out.
I really like that. I think that's a great idea.
Commissioner Wirtz.
Just 2 points. One, to follow up, that's a great idea, because I think one of the goals is to have community neighborhood effects through these programs. I will just point out, I think it's important to recognize, I think one of the first things in the report says that we served, our 10,000 families that we served represents 5% of the families with children. So we have to look at the scale, even with our program, we have to look at that scale and find why we need to collaborate with other institutions and partners and build this into our business and economic structure for the county. Because this first 5, as good as it can do, as we've seen with Her Health First, for example, it needs to reach, in that case, all 2,000 births, not just the 150 or so. The other thing, I will just raise it again. I'm not certain why First 5 is paying for, and if they're paying for court-mandated parenting education in our county.
We have been paying for it. We will not pay for it as of the next strategic plan. It's one of the many things around Birth and Beyond that we picked up in 2009 with the Great Recession when we picked up all of Birth and Beyond.
Right.
It was a sort of a holdover from that.
Right.
But you all did vote to not support that in the next strategic plan.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Gross, did you want to chime in? I think I saw your name pop up a few times.
Sometimes I want to say something right when someone is saying, and like if someone else jumps in, then it feels like the moment is back. But on the Commissioner Fernandez y Garcia's comment about asking about how much you're spreading the information, I wonder if we're collecting information in how did you hear about this program, so that if those questions are saying from my friend who did this. And that maybe there is a way to math it out so that that information tells us something about the spread. I don't know because I'm not in your role.
No, that's a good idea. So we do collect from almost all partners, how did you hear about this program or who referred you to this program? So we definitely could, but it's a drop down in Persimmon. It's a drop down with pre-selected options. So there is family friend as one of the options, but we wouldn't be able to understand the nuance of what you said of like, my friend participated in this and told me about this. So we could do part of what you're saying, but not the full detailed version.
Commissioner Moak.
Yeah, this is just, I appreciate all the comments, the ideas, where Dr. Wirtz brought us back to around the sample size. I think that this is also a great time to remember that we only use 2.4% of our budget for evaluation purposes. So I want a big old juicy, amazing report with all the data sets and everything else, but we don't choose to do that because we choose to fund program. And we thankfully have incredibly smart people that make our money go a long way with these types of measures. But we are limited in what we can do, the scope that we can actually undertake as it relates to evaluation and evaluation design. So I mean, he's been talking about this for a decade now, wanting to do more, but it's the balance of how much do you put aside for administration and evaluation, and how much do you continue to sink into program. And it's a needle that is tough to thread, but I think we've done a great job, and we are so thankful. To reiterate, we are so thankful to what you do for us for this budget dust that we ultimately give for this purpose. So,
thank you so much, Commissioner Moak. And one point that I want to make as well is we have had some conversations in planning for the next funding cycle with increased desire for more qualitative analysis, which I 100% see the value in, but that also takes more time and essentially more budget. So that's something that we're balancing while we're in this planning process as well, to be able to make sure that we're able to tell the true story using qualitative data where necessary, but sometimes we do just have to have the quantitative sort of survey type level data as well.
Commissioner Calles.
Yeah, just to follow on from the comment of Dr. Wirtz about the effective Black parenting, I think this is for Director Galello. So given that the commission is no longer funding court mandated, and it sounds like effective Black parenting is part of that. Is that correct?
It's a home visiting model, and it has yes, it has like a parenting education component to it. Yeah.
So that will now go away?
So for us, for our funding, we wouldn't see the numbers next year for court-mandated parenting classes. So we would
still provide it, just not unless they're court ordered.
We would be doing for non-court mandated families. We still fund parenting education courses, and then we would see it for the home visiting. It would show up as effective Black parenting home visiting versus PAT versus Healthy Families America.
Great, thank you.
Can I just add to that, just clarify? Will the county would then be paying for court mandated parenting classes? Would they not? Is that not a? I mean, if a judge requires a parent to do that, isn't the county required to pay for that? I'm asking that because I'm certainly did not want to indicate that I didn't think that we should be doing these programs, but rather that seemed like a supplanting of county services. So I just wanted to clarify that, what I was saying, but also then ask the question about whether the county would be paying for court-ordered parenting education. I would hope they would as part of this effort to help support families. So.
We call it mandated for the parents, but it's not mandated. Well, it's not mandated. It's an unfunded mandate for the county, basically. Like they say you have to provide parenting education for court-mandated parents, but there's no funding directly from the state to the county to cover the cost of that.
And if I can add, this will be part of my budget considerations because the court doesn't necessarily care about whether we have resources. If we have a court order, we have to and get to abide by it. And if not, and Corey's familiar with this, could lead to sanctions. What we also know is that many of our parents cannot afford the services that are court ordered. And there was a recent statute that went into effect that is not a reason for not achieving timely reunification. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gross.
So I have two questions now, sorry. So with the different home visiting programs, so it's like different curricula, right? When a parent comes in, do they get to choose which one? Like making parenting a pleasure or the effective Black parenting? Is it the parent's choice, or is it someone at the FRC is assessing them and saying which one is the best choice? It's just a matter of curiosity.
I do not know the answer to that question, but we do have our friends from Birth and Beyond in the audience who could probably answer it.
Good afternoon. I'm Stephanie Biegler with the Child Abuse Prevention Center. And my colleague?
I'm Tally Palmers with the Child Abuse Prevention Center.
The taller colleague here. Finally, I feel short. So with the Birth and Beyond 0 to 5 services, the home visitation models that are provided are parents as teachers, which is an evidence-based model that we have been providing for about 3 or 4 years. The Healthy Families America model that we've also been providing thanks to the CalWorks DHA funds. And then the Effective Black Parenting is a new home visitation model that is being implemented in 2 FRCs that are funded by the Reduction of African American Child Death Funds. Each of those models actually have what they call a target population. So part of the match is when the family comes in, there is an assessment of what curriculum best suits where they are and with their family and how old their child is. Excuse me.
And then Commissioner Gross, to your question about making parenting a pleasure and the Effective Black Parenting Program, those are the group parenting education workshops that are provided by all 9 family resource centers. So when a family first comes into a family resource center, they more than likely attend Making Parenting a Pleasure. It's like the Parenting 101 course. And then Effective Black Parenting is focused on the Black African American community. So it's a little more targeted to that community as well. However, if you have a Black African American family who needs to do, let's say, 52 weeks of parenting education, they could start with Making Parenting a Pleasure, and then the next phase they can go into Effective Black Parenting. It's not one or the other. They could do both.
Okay, thank you. And then I had another question about, now, thank you too, guys, about the paying for court-ordered parenting classes. This is for you, Julie, I guess. If someone is court-ordered that they need to do these parenting classes, and then they take themselves to the FRC, and they say, I'm court-ordered to take these classes, I'd like to sign up here, and nobody else is going to pay for it, do we say, no, you can't take the class? Like if we're saying we're not going to pay for it next year, how are we dividing out? Like, it would make sense if they said, yes, send us the bill. CPS or somebody else says, send us the bill. But if they're not going to say that, how do we say no to a family based on the fact that they were court-ordered, as opposed to they're just here because they want to be?
Yeah, good question. And I think it even goes back to, is there funding at the FRCs to provide court-ordered, court-mandated parenting classes if it's not being funded through First Five or Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services?
Isn't the real question, how was it done before we stepped in during the recession, right?
I believe that was funded through Department of Child, Family, and Adult Services.
But I guess the question is, though, so what you're saying is the FRC would, if you can't distinguish who is funding the parenting classes for a given family, they might not fund any parenting classes, or else you can't divide who could get it and who couldn't.
Right. I mean,
so it'd be everybody gets it who walks in, or nobody.
Possibly true.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
I feel like we need some clarity on this.
Well, okay, so I think
maybe not right now. Maybe.
Okay, yeah.
I don't want to put people in an awkward position here, but if we're going to discontinue, which we've made that decision to do, then if nothing else, the comfort level of the commissioners, maybe at the next meeting you could add that to the agenda in terms of giving us a better idea about funding sources and different, scenarios in terms of Commissioner Gross's question.
We'll do that.
Good. Okay. All right. I think that concludes the questions from commissioners. Do we have anyone sign up to speak on this matter?
No, Chair, I do not.
All right. Very good. Well, thank you again, Jordan.
So much, commissioners.
Yep. All right. Last on our agenda is the Commission's opportunity to make comments, individual commissioner comments. I don't see anyone in the queue, and I don't see anyone raising their hands. So, with that being said, if there's no further business before this commission, we stand adjourned.